All right, we're going to try and record a short podcast. We're not going to talk about the stuff we want to talk about. That's what we really want to talk about. But we're going to be good. We're not going to go in the weeds. There's been a little bit of drama on the podcast world, and we'll figure it out. But anyways, James,
how's it going?
Your cousin Devin is here. We're up here sitting around a wood stove, trying to kill some time before bed. And we're going to talk about introducing a young dog into the pack and what we're kind of looking for. And there's definitely better people. Well, I won't say about you, but there's better people than me on that. But let's start out. You got a young dog that you're sticking in there. I've got to start putting some young blood back in my pack. I'm going to be hurting next year, I think, for sure. But I'm at this point where I don't think I'm hunting it enough right now that it's just not. I don't want to put a young dog in there right now because I haven't been able to get out as much as I would like to.
See, I got lucky and started last dog when they sent me home from work for a year and a half. And so I was just home every day.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bad deal.
That's nice.
It was
I need a job like that.
That was a good time to start a dog.
Government.
Yeah.
Yeah, W doesn't get that. Like, if I go away too long, the shop starts falling apart. No, they do good, but they definitely like me there. They won't tell you that. They'll tell you they don't like me there, but I know better. Okay, so what are you looking like this young dog you got? Tell me about your dog. You just brought in a dog into your pack. What are you looking for? What are the things you're gonna?
The last
happy?
the last few dogs that I've added, and this youngest dog here, she's actually just essentially one generation in front of the dog that. Or behind the dog that's in front of her. My second youngest dog is out of just one generation ahead of the youngest dog. So I guess.
What do you mean? Like so explain that.
They all come out of the same blood.
Okay.
And they're, Pearl's going on 4 now and Hazel's going on 3 and they have the same dad, different moms.
Gotcha.
So there's just a generation between the two of them, basically.
Okay.
And so I guess thought process behind that being.
So what's the first thing you did when you brought that dog home? The one you just brought home last week or 2 weeks ago or whenever.
Oh, that one there?
Yeah.
The first thing I did is I locked all my other dogs away.
Got rid of them?
Yeah, got rid of them. No, I put all those dogs away in the kennel, let that new dog kind of roam around and take a look at the place without having to get mauled by every other dog there, And then I'll usually kind of just slowly start trickling another dog out, and then, let them get to know each other or whatever. And that's really kind of all I do. I let them sort a lot of that out,
Yep.
Amongst themselves. And there's never really any arguments or anything like that over it, but those dogs can learn more from each other in an hour than they can learn from me in days. So
just getting, that's one thing I think a lot of people, when you have a pack, you kind of integrate and you welcome it into the pack and then you treat it like a pack. And
yeah. And they seem to learn pretty fast what we can and can't do around here. And that didn't look like it was any fun, so I'm probably not going to do that. It seems like they learn quicker and quicker that way.
Yeah. And I think it's important to treat the pup as the pup in the pack.
I think so too.
You know what I mean? Like not baby or give it any extra attention. You're always going to give the new dog extra attention and stuff, and so you want to play with the young pup and stuff like that. But
like I feed the youngest dog last.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. They need to learn their hierarchy in the pack, and and sometimes it doesn't mean the oldest dog is the most dominant one either. You know what I mean?
No.
Like the pack has a dominant structure that you got to kind of watch, and when you bring the young dog in, you got to make sure that they understand that they are the least
Yeah,
dominant.
like with me, Ruth is she thinks she runs the entire operation, and I answer to her some days, I think. But so pretty much that's the one dog I always watch, like, how's this going to go?
Yep.
And if that checks out fine, I don't worry about anything else.
Yeah,
basically.
that's the one that's going to be like, well, Ruth says no.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only thing I look for. And after that, I kind of just let them learn amongst themselves.
Okay. So when you took it, you took her out this weekend or last weekend?
Last weekend, yeah.
And what'd you do from there?
Well, and this dog here that I just brought home, she's 9-10 months old. So I mean, she's plenty old enough at this point to where I just packed her around and turned her into every race I turned loose on.
Yeah.
And figured she's either going to go or she's not. And if she's not at the tree when we get there, we'll go find her.
Yeah.
But I didn't really do the first.
So when you turn her loose, what are you, when you're watching your GPS or whatever, what are you watching for her?
I guess a couple things. I'm watching to see how she keeps up with those dogs. You know, how, and it's tough to tell on the first week because they are still getting to know each other and trust each other and everything else. But something that I do look for in my dogs in general is I want them to all be a similar like speed to where they're moving a track together. They're not chasing each other.
Yeah.
And I don't really want one dog way far out ahead, and I don't need a dog that's a mile behind either.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, this last week, and I didn't have any expectations at all. I didn't know if this, I mean, I'd had the thing for 48 hours and took it to the woods, and didn't really know if she'd leave the road, didn't know what she would do, and just turned her in every race. And the last race, I guess it had been the last one. I did her out on that track first. It was a really, really fresh track, and let her kind of get a nose full of it. Watched kind of her body language and what she
take off.
She went. I mean, she didn't take off. She stuck her nose in the track, and she was trailing the track, but she wasn't a ball of fire out of there.
Yeah.
And then I dumped the rest of the dogs into her, and they peeled out of there, and she actually ended up falling back on that race. Probably, I would say, almost a mile. It went a lot further than I thought it was going to, and she was really out of shape. And so she fell out back probably about a mile, and basically I just figured, well, we'll go look for her if we have to go look for her. But she ended up trailing those other dogs all the way into the tree, and she got to the tree a couple minutes after I did. And so, I mean, not bad at all for...
Yeah, I find that... especially on a young dog, when they start going, you know what I mean? You don't want... There's a point where it's like, are they going to go or are they going to come back? You know, they get halfway there, especially if they get way behind or whatever. And it's like, man, having them continue on and show up.
And I guess, you know, that what I'm looking for on day one's a lot different than what I'm looking for on day 90 also, you know, so...
Yeah.
They get to a point where you have to also be able to watch them work on their own and be a dog that's finding an out track, or be a dog that's not just...
So let's talk about that a little bit. When do you see, so take an older dog or whatever, what do you look for when you're like, oh, I like that pup or whatever that... At what point, whether it's, you know, the dog's finding a loss or, you know what I mean, what are some of the key things you're looking for?
That's definitely a big one for me. It's something, I guess, that stands out is like, okay, yeah, that dog is hunting on its own, and it knows what we're doing here, and, you know, it's a contributing member to what we got going.
Like I can tell you, like when I hear Andy pipe off, she's my youngest, right? And I'm like, all right, she's the one that found.
Yeah,
It's
just like
good.
today.
Yeah, I hear her and I was like, yep, that was Andy. I'm like, I can hear her find it and take the loss and pick up the loss. Doesn't mean she does it every time, but I'm like, okay, she's at least contributing,
Yeah.
and that's always nice. When you don't see that, you really start wondering.
And I guess something else and I'm not always, I guess the best the first time it happens, I never trust them, but you'll, you hit a spot where, and it seems like every one of my dogs it happens to, where they might intersect a point where every one of your older dogs goes right and that other dog goes left, and only one of them's right. And I've had it happen, I think, with pretty much every dog that I own right now, where at one point in time that youngest dog peeled off going the opposite way of everybody else, and she was the one that was right.
Oh, really?
And so that's, something like that happens, and that sticks out in your head for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, just looking at like an independence or whatever.
Yeah.
I think if you're looking for something to
Independent, but not to a fault, I guess.
yeah, absolutely. Like at the point where they need to, I want to say, everybody says, oh, "Shut up and get to the other dogs" or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's some of that needs to happen to stay in the pack. To be like, okay, you don't have to go track to track. You need to get to the pack and then work from that point. You know what I mean?
Honor the dogs that are in front of you, especially on a big deal like a loss like that or whatever. If the other three that you're hunting with are gone, you probably better go and see what they're doing.
Yeah. Nope, I would agree with that. I'm kind of wondering when and what, because my pack's getting older. Shy's got to be 8 or 9, and then every 2 years, so Shelby would be 7, and Della's got to be 6, and Andy's got to be 4,
5.
almost 5. I'm like, so I'm at this point where I'm gonna be hurting soon. I think sooner than later. Shelby and Shy don't seem to hold up as good as they used to. You know what I mean? I used to, or at least I don't feel like they, especially in the conditions we've been hunting in with the snow, their feet, and I know Shy's been laid up quite a bit this year just because her feet kept getting tore up. So I'm like debating. I need to get a young dog, but man, such a pain.
It's nice when because right now the oldest dog I have is 8 and everything else is under 4.
Yeah.
And so the last couple of years have been, I enjoy those dogs a lot better on like day 5 than I do on day 1. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
The last couple of years have been, a lot of young dog goofing off.
Yeah. For me, and my hang up is I haven't been able to hunt hard enough because I can hunt older dogs a little bit less than you can younger dogs. It seems.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if I know when I get a pup, I need to be out there 3 days a week, 4 days a week, as much as I can, getting that dog exposed. You know what I mean? I can't do what I've been doing here, where
you can lay him up for a few weeks and still go out and catch a cat.
Exactly. Shy's feet are her feet has been. I just tore him up the very first trip really bad, and I've never let him heal fully. They get close, but it's like, man. So I'll lay her up for 2 weeks and then take her out again, and she's bows, it's like this vicious cycle. But with her, I can do that. I mean, she's older. I mean, there's for the first time this year, she's looked at me in the house and been like, "I'll stay home." You know what I mean? Like, which I've never thought. Normally she's the first one at the door, but I can just tell she's like willing to stay home.
Yeah,
and that's a big red flag for me, that I'm like, okay, she's definitely not feeling good. And I just know that I'm on borrowed time with her. I think I think she's gonna just keep continuing to downgrade. I can keep her in shape. That'll help a little bit and stuff like that. And then Shelby, same thing. I mean, she's the first one that both work really hard when it's time. But like even today, we picked Shelby up and she's like looking for a place to lay down. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you could tell her joints or something, her feet were not feeling good, and she was like adamant that she wanted to lay down. So I don't know what it is about Shelby, but I'll do that. I'll come to a tree and she'll be curled up at a tree laying down, and I'm like,
We actually last 2 weeks ago, or whatever it was, Matt came and hunted in Idaho, and the dogs ended up. We had started a track that ended up being a lot older than we thought it was, and yada yada yada. And every time we were about to call it off and pull dogs out of there, then all of a sudden they'd pick it up and trail. And it was like we did this all day long.
Yeah.
Every time you're going to quit, all of a sudden, okay, they got it rolling.
yeah,
And so they end up bringing it out of this canyon that's kind of a real shithole, and there's no roads to the bottom of it anywhere. And they bring it out of that canyon. Well, it comes up, it hits the road, it spins around, and dives right back down to the bottom of this shithole. And so we end up going down there, and we got like halfway there, and Matt is like, "This is fucking rough." And I'm like, "Yeah, this is a shithole down here, and it doesn't get any better." And so coming back out of there, Mabel's, she'll be 8 years old in May. And she's been pretty beat up over the years. We were coming out of there and we stopped for a few minutes sitting there taking a break, and she went and curled up underneath the tree. And Matt looks at me, he's like, "Do you see that?" I'm like, "Yeah, she's just taking a break." And, but she's getting to that age too. It's where it's almost like they're smart enough to, or maybe they've just done it enough times where they get to the point and they're like, we're not going to move here for a little bit. I'm going to go lay down because I know what this is all about. And
it don't bother me except when it's time to hike out. I'm like, hey, let's. There's times where I'm like, yeah, let's just get out of here because I can tell that if she curls up, and I don't know if she goes to sleep or not, but I just don't. I know if she stoves up, I'm like, we probably should get out, let her rest when we get to the truck. But yeah, I just noticed that once in a while where they just. And I'm not gonna. I mean, they're working hard.
No, at that point in time, those dogs have lived long enough, caught enough cats. It's kind of like.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what I mean? And who am I to say how she's feeling? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I'm like, I'm not going to get. It's just that's her quirk. You know what I mean? I'm like, you know what I mean? She's giving me what she's.
Well, and it'd be different if it was like that all the time. If it wasn't 100 miles an hour to.
A young dog doing that would really irritate me, probably. You know what I mean? Like, it really irritate me. But an older dog doesn't bother me. You know what I mean? Like, she never did that when she was younger, so I think she's just getting arthritis, and I do that. And then you got Della, which Della's probably, I don't want to say I got a weird pack right now. Della's that 6-year-old. She's really doing good, but she's got some quirks there that I don't necessarily trust her all the time. She likes to trail more than she likes to tree. You know what I mean? So there's sometimes I'm always nervous about that. And then I got Andy. And so I need to get a younger dog. Would be ideally right now would be perfect for me because I got a good set to train him with. And I worry that I'm going to wait too long and then I'm going to be screwed. So, yeah. So when I get a young dog, and that's going to be the trick is I still need to take these older dogs to help train her and get her out there, but I don't think I'm going to have the same. I don't think I think I'm going to have some struggles. I really think I'm going to be in a situation where I'm going to have to kind of start over a little bit and rely more on the younger dog. Hopefully, I'll have a little more experience in not letting that dog get away with crap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to have to be a lot more engaged. And hopefully I have a couple dogs that I can take some pressure. Shelby can still hopefully help me with with that or Shy. Either one of those have been pretty good. I don't trust Della. Della will probably get talked into. She'd be like, "Whoa, let's go. Let's just trail this thing." She normally does pretty good, but I don't know with the younger dog. And I'm just gonna have to start over. Like I'm gonna. I think I waited too long. I think it would have been better if I would have just kept a 2 or 3 year cadence. You know what I mean? And not get to a 5-year-old dog before I bring a young dog in. So
and I think you do end up a lot of times you'll start seeing, at least I have. Well, and I mean I know you saw it too. Like when I ended up with Maddie, where you'll wait too long, and then you're going to have that older dog that's intentionally being a pain in the ass because they start to get beat by the other dogs in front of them, and then you get drug into bad habits there and all sorts of shit that pisses you off.
Absolutely.
And so you play through that game for a while, and then you're basically almost just as good starting completely over.
I 100% agree. Like I think I'm starting to see some of that in Shy with her feet hurting, and she's definitely trailing behind. Like last week I was trailing one, and I got to watch them. They were trailing through some open timber and stuff, and I could see the frustration in Shy, trying to keep up,
but not keeping up.
But she couldn't, and she was pretty frustrated and barking. She's on the track, so she's still barking, but her bark was not like a driving the track bark. It was more like a frustration, wait for me bark. Like, hey, I want to be up front, but I can't. So, frustrating, definitely frustrating. It's something that I think we all have to go through.
Yeah. And it'll get to a point, I know, when I get to later in the year where, like, even though Mabel's only 8, I mean, she's not keeping up with 3 and 4-year-olds day in and day out for months on end. And so rather than get into those being pissed because your oldest dog just did this, a lot of times when it gets later into the season and we're done with clients and everything else, I'll just do nothing but run those young dogs.
Yeah.
And you guys better figure out how to do it without her here,
Yeah, and you can lay those older dogs up.
Yeah.
They got the experience, so it's not as critical. You can't do that with the younger dogs. So, I agree. When with this young dog you have now, what's your timeline? What do you expect?
I don't know if I can't say that I've been around the dog long enough yet to really know. Because I think a lot of it just, I think so much of it's based off of the maturity level of the dog, aside from just, you better be doing this at X number of days, because there's dogs that I've owned that if you'd have said by day 60 you better be doing this, and you got rid of them then, you'd really regret it by day 120. So, whatever your time frame is, I think a lot of that to me, I think is definitely dog to dog is different.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. For somebody who is just starting out or new, and they have if they have some older dogs and a younger dog in there, like I said, a lot of I think you just got to chill out, and you just need to really pay attention to the dog and what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like watch that young dog and look for it to pick up loses, or if they get a bobble, is the dog searching? You know what I mean? Is it just chasing another dog around, or is it searching and looking for the track? That's what I kind of like to see.
Yeah, for sure.
So, anything else?
No, I think that pretty much. I think that pretty much covers Jason's topic for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that one. We'll go from there.
I think that'll work.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.